Okay, guys. So this is gonna be my first severe weather forecast for my new channel here that I kind of just started up. So yeah. Anyways, specifically for Kansas, because again, I mostly cover only Kansas severe weather. If anyone wants me to cover any other areas, I can start doing that. But I mean, as you know from the title of the channel, I mainly cover Kansas weather, really more specifically Southeast Kansas weather. But anyway, yeah. Let's get started. So today we have just a marginal 1 out of 5 risk, nothing too out of the ordinary, but 1 out of 5 risk for areas kind of central through north central, parts of east central Kansas, and kind of clipping into southeast Kansas here. So see, I'm gonna enable my pen. Hold up here. All right, there we go. So yeah, let's see. Okay, so let's go to our tornado risk first. So tornado risk shouldn't be too high today. We kind of have a little bit here throughout parts of like north central Kansas. Whoa, hold up. Okay, we'll just leave that there. But yeah, so kind of up through north central Kansas, including Kansas City, some areas up there. And the reason why we have that is because there's going to be a little bit of an enhancement in the low level winds later on throughout the day, which could enhance the photographs, curvature of the photographs, which could in turn lead to just that conditional tornado threat. Now, if we go to our wind risk here, again, nothing too high here, just a general, 5% wind risk here out throughout basically the same areas as that marginal risk that I've already outlined. So yeah, nothing. Winds marginal, so about up to 60, 65 is about what's considered marginal winds. So let's look at our hail. Hail, kind of southeast Kansas is kind of left out of the hail risk here, but like maybe some small, just like pocket change hail. Probably not anything too severe though. Maybe we could get in that area, but really southeast Kansas probably won't see a whole lot of like severe hail later on. But as far as Kansas goes, we kind of have that just similar area, northeast Kansas through central, through south central Kansas, Wichita, like Emporia, even up into like parts of Kansas City. But yeah, some of those areas are included in that threat. So yeah, overall, not a screaming high risk for today, but it's out there. So yeah, let's kind of dive into some of the details here. Okay, so now I am on Aguacero Weather, which is one of the sites that I use kind of to analyze some weather data here. But first we got Mixed Layer Cape. This was as of 6 a.m. this morning. This is what this model run shows here. I tried to use the HRRR model, but I don't know, it's kind of messing up on me and it really wasn't working that great. So anyways, we're just going to use this one. But anyway, so yeah, basically 6 a.m. this morning, really obviously not too much Cape, which I mean, kind of understandable right now. But again, just to quickly outline or kind of marginal risk area for Kansas at least. So yeah, very, very low Cape to start the morning. As we continue to go throughout the morning, that Cape kind of slowly builds here in areas in south central Kansas and even southeastern Kansas. This would be about 11 a.m. as of this morning. It's currently 1 o'clock, around 1 o'clock p.m. or so as I'm filming this. But this would have been at about 11 a.m. this morning. We have that appreciable Cape kind of developing through these areas of Kansas here, varying from about, let's say, maybe like 1,500 to 2,000 is about a good little guess here. But definitely, starting to get into those appreciable levels of Cape for storm development. Usually we would like that to be at about maybe 1,000 at the minimum to get that really like sustained storm development, which we are definitely approaching those levels as of earlier this morning. So if we continue to go throughout the day, that Cape really builds. You can definitely see kind of out, maybe if I can highlight this little corridor here, but for sure, give me one moment here. For sure, kind of in this area right here, and even a little bit up north too, but definitely down in the southern sector of this marginal risk here, that Cape really starts to build in, especially areas like Pratt, Great Bend, kind of out here in this western corridor too. But that Cape really starts to build in 2,000 plus joules per kilogram of Cape, which is definitely an appreciable amount for sustained storm development. So we definitely keep that going here. I'd say average about 2,000 to maybe upwards of even almost 3,000 out in that western sector. But again, so yeah, we continue. This would be at about 3 o'clock this afternoon. So here in a few hours. We keep going forward. That Cape continues to build a little bit, and then we kind of have a little bit of a split here. So we have like out in, again, this little like western corridor, we have like a western area out here, and then we kind of have like this just almost eastern sector of it out here. But still appreciable Cape at around 7 o'clock tonight. And then eventually after probably about I'd say, let's see, so this would be around, so this would be around 11 o'clock tonight. I'd say definitely after like by 11 o'clock is when that threat really kind of starts to dissipate a little bit. Guess we can take a little bit out because this is a mid-range law, so we can take it out a little bit. You can see tomorrow, though, I kind of already had it a little bit fast-forwarded, but I mean, look at this Cape, the way it builds, especially tomorrow, especially up in like northeast Kansas. Probably if I can little kind of outline this just sector here. I mean, look at this, very, very appreciable levels of Cape all through here. I mean, we have at least like, just give me one moment here. We have at least like almost 5,000 joules per kilogram, which when you start getting to like 4,500, 5,000, that's very appreciable levels of instability in those mixed layers of the atmosphere. So now I will be briefly touching up on most unstable Cape and surface-based Cape. Obviously, kind of a similar setup with the most unstable Cape here. Kind of those two little sectors here. Kind of have a southeastern sector of the risk area in here, and then kind of out western a little bit. You have that higher instability out there, a higher unstable Cape. But yeah, similar setup here, about I'd say about 2,000 to 2,500 joules per kilogram of most unstable Cape throughout the day, which again still favorable for sustained storm development. Still would encourage, well, that's a weird word, but anyway, would support that development. So yeah, briefly touch up on most unstable Cape. Again, not much has changed. Not much will change, especially throughout the evening. I'd say personally that threat will probably drop off around 11 o'clock, like 10, 11 o'clock tonight, even with a slightly elevated instability, just due to probably convective inhibition building back in later into the evening. But I will touch on that here in just a little bit. So now we're going to take a look at our convective inhibition levels, which convective inhibition is basically just a measure of the capping inversion, which, of course, for anyone that may not know, the capping layer is basically just this layer of warm air kind of in the colder layers of the atmosphere. And obviously, when we have that warm parcel of air rising up through the layers of the atmosphere, we want it to continue to get cooler with height, and then eventually, obviously, like condense into a cloud. But see, that warm layer of air basically shoots that cold air parcel back down into the ground, and it causes it to fall back, and is not favorable for storm development. So this is still using the NAM 3-kilometer model, which again is kind of a mid-range. It's a convective allowing model that I'm using right now. So this, again, 6 a.m. this morning. A little bit of Cape kind of out in Oklahoma, but Kansas still remains kind of very loosely capped, if you want to call it that. Of course, we're going to put back our day one categorical outlook here, and I want you to kind of pay attention to the levels here. So this is about 10 a.m. here. You can see this here 15Z 9 a.m. Look what happens after that hour. See how all that convective inhibition kind of just drops away? Well, that's part of the reason why we have decent chances for storms and potentially even some marginally severe weather today, is because very loosely capped air mass overall, especially still through southeast Kansas. That cap kind of begins to build in north central and northeastern Kansas with some time. But for sure, through southeast Kansas, that cap really doesn't start to build until like later on through like early tomorrow morning and everything. So that's part of the reason why we have those severe chances today, is because of a loosely capped air mass with favorable instability, definitely leading to a potential marginal severe weather setup here today. All right, so now we are going to analyze our 0 through 6 kilometer bulk shear. So, of course, many people have probably heard about shear and what that is, and other forecasts or whatever. But again, if there's people that really don't know, shear is the change in wind direction and wind speed with height. And what that does is wind shear is basically what causes those rotating updrafts that you see in supercells. Because again, that's the definition of a supercell, is a storm with a rotating updraft. Because all supercells have that characteristic. All supercells have rotating updrafts. But anyways, and kind of in like the plains area, we would like that shear to be around at least 35, maybe at the minimum, to 45 to even sometimes 50 plus for favorable supercellular development. I went ahead and highlighted the 2% tornado risk that was included by the SPC here, again, for kind of areas in northeastern, north central, and just central Kansas in general. But yeah, so I want you to kind of watch the shear here. It really doesn't begin to actually overspread the area until after noon, so after maybe around 2 o'clock here. And I want you to kind of pay attention again to that sector here. So you can see shear really not the most favorable today in today's setup, and that is kind of one of our lacking ingredients for a higher severe weather setup. I think today is our shear is not that great, not the most favorable today. Average probably about 25 to maybe 35 knots, maybe 25, maybe 30 knots, I would say. But I do want you to keep watching that here a little bit. You can see kind of a few pockets of maybe up until like maybe 40 to 50. A few of those pockets of that enhanced shear. And that is, I believe, why they went ahead and added that 2% tornado threat, is because with that shear, if we can get some of those supercellular structures to develop, could get maybe one or two just brief, quick little spin up tornadoes. But really, I don't expect the tornado risk to be high at all. Just maybe one or two isolated, quick, brief spin ups. But that's really all as far as I would say that would go. But yeah. Okay, so the last thing we're going to take a look at before we really get digging into the reflectivity models is going to be our dew point here. So definitely have favorable moisture return here, kind of throughout Kansas and everything. So averaging about maybe 60, so maybe about 60 to 70 degrees Fahrenheit of dew point. So this is at 6 a.m. earlier this morning. As we continue to go through the morning and kind of through this early afternoon, kind of starts to overspread, get about maybe some low 70s, high 60s, low 70s dew points throughout the marginal risk. Let me put that back up here. There we go. So yeah, we kind of get those favorable dew points still kind of throughout the day here, and even still through the night, and even throughout tomorrow, and really actually throughout the next couple days most likely. But so yeah, moisture return definitely will not be a problem. Favorable moisture, I would say at the minimum, maybe 55 to about 60 degrees Fahrenheit is about minimal favorable moisture return for storm development. So that, again, that should not be a problem for today. Okay, so now I am able to use the HRRR run, which I am very glad of, because it is a more kind of current weather model to use. But this is around 19Z, so this is 1 o'clock. It is currently 1:30 now as I am filming this, making this, whatever. But this is the model run as of 1 o'clock. You can kind of see some of those little pop-up storms getting going in north central Kansas here, kind of up maybe kind of through here and into like southern Nebraska and areas like that. But I do believe that some of these storms up here, either would be pulse in nature, and some of these could also, okay, bruh, everybody's snapping me while I'm trying to make this. Anyway, real quick though, but yeah, I do believe that some of these storms, for sure, some of these could be just little pulse up storms. I mean, they could just pulse up, then just kind of go back down. But I do believe a few of these could support at least that marginalized hail threat. Maybe in north central Kansas, so like Concordia, for example, Manhattan, Phillipsburg. Even though Phillipsburg's outside the risk area, but still, some of those areas up there. Now, as we continue going through the day, we kind of get a little line of storms that develops through north central Kansas, starting about Concordia here, and kind of tracks off to the east, maybe slight northeastward through maybe Kansas City, St. Joseph. Oh my gosh, what am I doing? St. John. Oh my gosh. Whatever. Anyway, you know what I'm trying to say though. We get kind of a little line here that develops throughout the evening and kind of tracks in that area. Those storms could definitely pose maybe more of that marginalized severe threat hail, maybe up to $50. I don't know if we'd quite get that much, but maybe that could be a favorable or reasonable ceiling on the hail size. So yeah, and then after about after about 11 o'clock tonight, the storms, they kind of fizzle out for most of Kansas and then continue pushing into Missouri throughout the rest of the night. Now, looking at southeast Kansas here, first let's look down kind of by Wichita here. Storms get going around, this would be around, let's see here. So around 3 o'clock is when this model shows storms getting going, even though I'll show you a current radar here in just a little bit. But this shows storms getting going around 3 o'clock, kind of southwest of Wichita. Again, some of these isolated cells could pose maybe that marginalized 60 mile an hour core size hail severe threat. These kind of fizzle out a little bit, and really most of southeast Kansas will likely stay dry just based on the models here throughout the day. Really not going to get anything just kind of throughout like this corridor really, but we'll just have to see what happens as the day keeps pushing on. But yeah. Okay, so now this is a current look at the radar. As of now, I of course viewing the Wichita radar right now. Kind of a few little, maybe pulse storms kind of in a sense, but few kind of special weather statements down here in northern Oklahoma. So Fairview, Helena, Cherokee, Enid, areas kind of around that area. But those will continue moving off towards the east, or more likely in northeast track. And then we do have a lot of storms, obviously Manhattan, Salina, kind of up just areas in north central Kansas here. Again, not really anything severe, just some stronger thunder showers, maybe just weaker, just garden variety thunderstorms probably in general kind of throughout here right now. But yeah, those will continue advancing kind of that northeast track. Of course, there is a mesoscale discussion out just highlighting that kind of severe threat up northern Kansas, southern Nebraska, up in that area. Really a 20% chance of a watch. Really nothing probably going to be expected in the way of watches or anything like that. But yeah, just kind of those pulse storms that are out there, what just happened. Anyway, there we go. Kind of just those pulse storms out there right now. Those should continue, again, to move off to the northeast. So I feel like southeast Kansas will, this area kind of in here, we'll probably start to get some of these storms over the next hour and a half or so, around there. But anyway, that's all I kind of got for today's severe forecast. Again, bear with me. This was my first actual really good attempt at trying to make a severe weather forecast. I know it was longer than I should have tried to make it, longer than I needed to be, but I had a lot of data I was trying to cover in a shorter amount of time. But I mean, I hope you got some good information out of this though. But anyways, that's going to be all for this severe forecast. And I hope that, you enjoy your day. Have a good day. You know, pretty nice outside other than dodging these storms and everything. But anyway, that was all for me, and I will see you in my next weather video.